Hello everyone and welcome to Tailored Acres. I'm Taylor and I'm a gardener in Wisconsin Zone 4B. And today's video I'm going to be showing you how I am going to store my ranunculus and anemones for winter. So I'll show you the whole process. They're still growing right now, so I'll show you what I look for before I start digging them first.
Before we get into it, I wanted to show you some of the bouquets that I made and some of the plants that were growing this year. They were absolutely gorgeous. Most of these are anemones. There are a few ranunculus, like that brighter pink in that one. The anemones did fantastic, and those are the ones that I'm going to be focusing on growing in the future. The ranunculus just didn't perform as well, and the anemones are just bigger, more gorgeous. I absolutely loved them. So there were so many bouquets that I got to make because these bloomed from mid-May to mid-June, which was a very long time, especially here in Wisconsin where we don't have much else growing at that time.
So my first order of business is actually going to be weeding this area. What I did for weed suppression here was to put some grass clippings down, but those did not last all season. So we got lots of weeds to clear out first, and then I'll show you what it looks like after.
When should we be digging up these ranunculus and anemone corms? Basically, it's after the foliage turns yellow and dies back naturally. So for ranunculus, they typically bloom late spring to early summer. We can dig them up 4 to 6 weeks after blooming once the foliage turns yellow and dries out. Anemones is the same process. Wait until the foliage starts to die back naturally, but these are often mid to late summer. So for 4B, this means ranunculus are late July to early August, and anemones are early to mid-August. On the left side here, I had anemones, and I had some bloom stalks and some green leaves still in that area. Most of them are gone now, and then there's nothing left of ranunculus greens. So I accidentally dug a few of these up. These two are ranunculus, so they're like the more spider-looking corms, and then this one is an anemone, and it's a much harder, almost like a acorn kind of deal. They're very interesting. I just use this little garden tool to rake out the corms. My soil is nice and loose, so it's very easy to get these out. The roots kind of died back too, so they're not really attached strongly anymore. There are a few that had some green growth on them still, so I actually just grabbed onto them and used the rake to help loosen them, but they were definitely in there a little bit more because of the active roots.
Here's my haul of what I dug out. So there are quite a few anemones, and some of these are super big, so I think I'll be able to divide them. Some of them are a little bit rotten, like this one. So I'm going to rinse these off next and kind of look them over. And I think I'm going to have to cut out some of those rotten parts because I don't want that to continue into the corms. Here's a gigantic one. And then here is the ranunculus. Those were anemones. I don't know what I just said. And these are all little fuzzy babies right now. Let's see here. You can kind of see this one is what the corms actually look like. So I'm going to rinse all these off next and get them cleaned up.
My goal with this is to get all the dirt rinsed off so I can see what's going on, especially with these that have those little spots of rot that I'm going to need to cut out. This anemone had the worst spot of rot. You can really see it. It's squishy, it's disgusting. It needs to come out so that we can try to save that corm. I do also rinse off my ranunculus. I do see some people don't do this step, but I have a good process to dry them, so I'm not worried about them retaining this moisture, and this way I can see what's going on for dividing them. So these are the Ranunculus corms, and what I'm going to do next before storing them is to split them or divide them. So each one of these, you can see that there was something coming out of it, like a stem or a leaf. So each one of those will be an individual plant. So what I'm going to do is just gently tease them apart. Maybe. Some are harder than others, and you actually don't have to do this, but if you do, you will get more plants. So I'm just going to keep working it. They're moving now. So there's one. So you can see it has a stem coming out the top here and a full set of little mini tubers. And this one was pretty tight together. Oh, now it's a little bit looser. So I'm just going to pull apart just like that. And you can see more dirt comes out when you do this too. I was doing some of this along the way as well for the really big ones. I'll do a couple more here just for an example. So you can see they both have like a top, and they're very symmetrical around where a stem will come. So it's pretty easy to see where you need to divide. So I'm just going to get my thumbs in there and kind of work them back and forth. There we go. Just like that. Next we are on to the anemone corms, and these are harder to see where you need to divide them. So I picked the most clear example that I could, and I'll talk about what I'm going to do with the rest of them. So on this one, what we're looking for is the same thing. Stems coming out the top and also roots coming out the bottom. That will be a nice standalone plant if you have those things. So if we go over here to this side first, so this is good here, and then this one here. So what I'm going to do is cut this right along here, and this is going to be its own one, basically just this little circle. Because how they come, I can show you in a second here, is just these tiny little things. So I could actually probably remove this little chunk too, like as big as my thumb, and we'll be good. These ones I'm not so sure about because I don't see where a stem was coming out. Maybe there was one right here, but I'm not as certain about that. And then this one on the top here, you can see how this one like grew a whole system on top. So that's the things that I'm looking for. So I'm gonna just take a pruning knife and cut these apart here. And sorry if I can't, it's kind of hard to show you guys. Oh, there we go. So there will be a wound here. And what we're going to do is we're going to let that dry for about a day. And then I'm also going to be cutting out the rotten parts of these because I did have some rotten areas and I'm not sure why that was. A lot of the stems were dried back on these, so I don't know if maybe they were in the ground a little bit too long because I had all those weeds. I couldn't see what was going on. So I'm going to be dipping these in some, shoot, totally forgot what it's called. So I'll get back to you on that one. I'm going to be dipping these in sulfur powder for storage, and that will help with the rot. It's what I do with my dahlia tubers as well to help fight off rot on those during storage too. So, okay, so we got this one here, that one's done, and then I'm going to try to just wiggle this top one off here. You can see it really well that way. It seems like it's totally just going to come off. There we go. So here, that's what it looks like. These are just the goofiest things. And then I could take this one off too, but because I'm not sure if the rest of this is gonna grow separately, I'm gonna leave that little one on. So what I am gonna do next spring to divide these further is when I'm pre-sprouting, once they start forming their leaves, just like have little shoots and little bits of the roots forming, I'm going to split it the same way, where a leaf is coming out, it's going to be its own little plant as long as it has roots there. So that's my plan on further dividing these.
All right, so this is an interesting one. It like has a hole in there. I don't know if a critter ate its way in there or not, but what I'm gonna do, because this is a nice shape here, I'm just gonna cut it in half and hope something's not in there, but I guess you'll hear me scream if there is. So this is all very solid and not rotted that I can see. Okay, so it does look like maybe there's some rot in here because this should be nice and all white. So I'm gonna further cut this one to get that out. Oh, there's a little bit more. So why I'm cutting the rot out is that I don't want it to spread to the other corms in storage. So now it is nice and white. So that is my goal on getting these ready for storage. All right, here is another one that I felt, and it felt not squishy, but like I could tell it was hollow. So I'm gonna get that out of there as well. And I broke off that little end. See, these are just like hollow. It's not what you want. So I'm actually gonna cut this way back here. There we go. So a lot of the corms that you get are tiny too. So I'm thinking these will be just fine. So for example's sake, I just ordered these corms from Fleur Farm. This is a gorgeous mix, anemone caramel. And this is how they came. So they look like little acorns to me. So that's how small most of them come that are when you order them. All right, so here is another one that has a squishy spot. Oh, where'd it go? Right here. And maybe you can see it looks a little glistening, like there's yuck. It's gonna be yucky. So I'm just gonna get my knife behind it and remove that. Kind of dig around in here. All right, I think I'm just gonna split those. Okay, that all looks good and solid. And so does this. So I think we're good. I think we got rid of that one. My next step is going to be to dry these out for about a day. So I have them on this, it's just a screen from one of our windows that we don't use, so on some sawhorses. So I want these to be in like a single layer. And you can see how many I had to cut out. So I don't know if it's like the mother tuber, well, tuber, whatever, corm dies off, kind of like a dahlia or what is going on with these, but I'll keep you guys updated. And then these ranunculus, we're just going to get them to dry out now that they've been divided, so those will be good. I've done those many years already. These, I think I bought these like 3 years ago already, so easy to propagate. These ones, we'll see how they turn out. I'll keep you updated, like I said. I did forget to mention I also have a fan on in this area to keep the airflow up. Last night I left these on my kitchen counter, which doesn't have much airflow, and there was a little bit of mold started on some of these guys. So definitely be proactive about keeping them dry if you're going to rinse them off. You can always not rinse them off and just let them dry out, but I find it a lot harder to divide and look for disease that way, but do what works best for you for sure. My corms are now dry. They've been drying for about a day. And this is what I'm going to put on the anemone corms to make sure that they don't rot. And that's because they had those spots that I cut out. Otherwise, I don't think you need to do this. So that sulfur I have put into a box with some vermiculite. So this is exactly how I do my dahlia tubers as well. So I'm going to put all of these guys in here, give it a little shake around outside, and then put them in a mesh bag. So this is what they look like after they've gone through this process. So they're just going to be coated a little bit with that powder. So next we're going to put them in some organza bags, and I actually soak them in these as well. So they let them breathe. And then I'll show you where I want to store them. I forgot to mention that this sulfur is a very fine powder, so doing all of this outside would be the best idea, and also wearing gloves. Even after I wash my hands still smell like it, but for some reason I can't remember to put on gloves before I get my hands in here. These are gonna spend the winter in my basement here. My basement stays a very consistent 60 degrees. What I've seen is that around 45 degrees is the most ideal temperature to store these, but I have nowhere in my house that's the case. I do have a wine fridge that I store my dahlia tubers in that gets about that temperature, but I'm not going to put these in there. So I have stored the ranunculus this way for a few years now, and they've been just fine. So I'm hoping the anemones store well down here as well. One thing to watch out for is you don't want these on the floor or somewhere that the rodents can get to them, because they are a very tasty treat for them. Last year when I was sprouting these down here, all the new ranunculus that I bought were eaten. For some reason they did not touch the ones that I had saved from the year before, but just a word of caution for both when you're sprouting them and for when you're storing them: rodent protection.
And that's it for this video. Thank you for joining. Take care and enjoy your ranunculus and anemones.